Why do some killers feel no remorse? The mystery of the criminal mind. Imagine sitting across from someone who has committed an unthinkable crime. The room is silent. You look them in the eyes and ask one simple question. Do you regret what you did? Most of us expect the answer to be obvious. Shame, guilt, maybe even tears. But some offenders simply reply, no. Not because they're trying to be intimidating, but because they genuinely don't feel remorse. That raises a disturbing question. How can two people experience the same event so differently? Why would one person spend years haunted by a single mistake, while another can commit an act of extreme violence and sleep peacefully the very same night? Understanding that difference has become one of the biggest challenges in criminal psychology. For decades, psychologists, neuroscientists, and criminologists have searched for answers. Is it something we're born with? Something we learn? Or is there a hidden combination of biology, environment, and life experiences that shapes who we become? Surprisingly, even modern science doesn't have a complete answer. At first glance, the explanation seems simple. People commit terrible crimes because they're evil. It's an idea that's easy to believe. After all, if criminals are fundamentally different from the rest of us, then the world feels a little safer. But reality turns out to be far more complicated. When researchers began interviewing violent offenders inside prisons, they noticed something unexpected. People who committed similar crimes often had completely different personalities. Some acted in sudden bursts of anger. Others planned every detail for months. Some felt overwhelming regret afterward. Others described their crimes with almost no emotion at all. These differences suggested something important. There isn't just one type of criminal. Instead, there are many different psychological pathways that can lead people toward violence. And one of the most studied pathways is psychopathy. Movies often portray psychopaths as calculating masterminds with no emotions whatsoever. Reality is much more nuanced. Researchers have found that individuals with high psychopathic traits often process emotions differently. They may recognize fear intellectually, without fully experiencing its emotional weight. Brain imaging studies have revealed differences in areas linked to empathy and emotional processing, particularly the amygdala. This tiny structure plays a major role in how we recognize fear, danger, and emotional significance. But here's the important part. Having these brain differences doesn't automatically make someone violent. Many people with similar traits never commit serious crimes, which leads to another mystery. Psychopathy explains only a small percentage of violent offenders. Many notorious criminals don't meet the clinical definition of a psychopath at all. Some are driven by intense jealousy, others by paranoia, some by ideology, others by desperation. Clearly, there is no single formula that explains criminal behavior. Another clue comes from childhood. Researchers have discovered that growing up in environments filled with violence, neglect, or chronic fear can significantly influence how the brain develops. Children raised in dangerous environments often become highly alert to potential threats. Their brains adapt to survive. Constant vigilance, quick reactions, emotional suppression. These adaptations can be incredibly useful during childhood. But years later, the very same survival mechanisms may contribute to impulsive aggression, emotional instability, or difficulty trusting others. Ironically, what once protected them may later increase the risk of harmful behavior. Yet this explanation has its own limitations. Millions of children experience traumatic childhoods. The overwhelming majority never become violent criminals. Trauma increases risk. It doesn't determine destiny. Something else must also be influencing the outcome. Scientists have also explored genetics. Certain genetic variations appear to be linked with higher levels of impulsivity and aggression. But genes don't dictate our future. They're more like probabilities than predictions. Our relationships, education, environment, and personal choices continue shaping us throughout life. Perhaps one of the most unsettling discoveries comes from studies on obedience. Psychological experiments have repeatedly shown that ordinary people can sometimes perform disturbing actions when instructed by an authority figure. It challenges the comforting belief that only monsters commit terrible acts. History has shown that under certain circumstances, ordinary people can also make extraordinary moral mistakes. Today, criminal psychologists have more tools than ever before. Brain scans, behavioral assessments, personality testing, even artificial intelligence is beginning to help identify behavioral patterns. Yet despite all these advances, accurately predicting violent behavior remains incredibly difficult. Human beings are simply too complex. Maybe that's because every criminal story is unique. No two lives unfold in exactly the same way. Each person represents a different combination of biology, childhood experiences, relationships, opportunities, choices, and chance. Remove just one of those pieces, and the outcome might have been completely different. So why do some killers feel no remorse? Science has uncovered part of the answer. Differences in brain function, personality, trauma, development, social environment. Together, these factors help explain why empathy can vary so dramatically between individuals. But they still don't explain everything. There is still no equation capable of predicting who will become violent, who will choose compassion, or who will completely change their life after making terrible decisions. Despite decades of research, the human mind continues to surprise us, and perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all. The same human brain that creates breathtaking works of art, discovers life-saving medicines, and sacrifices everything for loved ones, is also capable of unimaginable cruelty. Both possibilities exist within our species. Understanding why one path is chosen over another remains one of psychology's greatest challenges. Perhaps studying criminals isn't really about understanding evil. Perhaps it's about understanding ourselves. Because the more we learn about the darkest corners of the human mind, the more we discover just how complex every human being truly is. And maybe that search for understanding is one mystery that will never completely end.